This is your obedient servant, Reverend George Latimer Knight, coming to you with another book review. I have a reading list I got from a website on self-education, and she lists 13 books that will help one to learn about the self-education or movement, or the more technical term being an autodidact. The first book that I read is called Deschooling Society, written by Illich. It is a book from the 70s, but it is still very relevant today. Just wanted to highlight a few points from the book for you. I want to just say in preface to that I'm a member of the educated public, have a degree, working toward graduate degrees, but I've always had the suspicion that something's not quite right with our educational system. And one point that he makes is about our suffocated educational system. And he taught, and I believe it's chapter 2, he talks about the phenomenology of schooling. And there are 3 points to that: age, the teacher-pupil relationship, and, let me look at my notes, full-time attendance. These 3 points are very interesting and important. One, we assume that by different ages we have to know different things. We as a society have arbitrarily places on people. And I believe that maybe this is the cause and the root of all of our problems. One child, according to our system, maybe can excel in English, and by age 10 can be on the 12th grade English level, but maybe in their mind, the way their mind works, they're slow in math. But just because they're slow in math doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Doesn't mean they're disabled or have a learning disability. It just means that they're unique, that they're individuals, and we each have individual needs, individual paces. Yes, there is a certain mental capacity which, at that point and below, we would categorize someone as being learning impaired or developmentally disabled. But some of that label is our own design. Who says that the best way of learning is just sitting in a desk with 6 rows, 5 columns? Who says that that's the best way to learn? Looking at a chalkboard or looking at even the PowerPoint presentation? Who says that's the best environment of learning? We have said that as a society, but that does not make it so. And there are a few quotes I want to share with you quickly from the book Deschooling Self and Society. The first quote says, "The discovery that most learning requires no teaching can be neither manipulated nor planned. Each of us is personally responsible for his or her own deschooling, and only we have the power to do it. No one can be excused if he fails to liberate himself from schooling." You find it on pages 47 and 48. We need to have education to make it as the world is set up today, but it's up to us to deschool ourselves. School impedes your creativity. It makes you fall in line with how we say, how the powers that be say things ought to be. So it's up to us to deschool ourselves, to keep reading, keep studying far beyond school. Study after study proves and shows us throughout the decades that once a person gets out of school, whether high school or college, the majority of people don't read a book. They don't read anymore. They don't study anymore. So what has happened to education? Education is a lifelong process. Our next quote says, I believe that the contemporary crisis of education demands that we review the very idea of publicly prescribed learning rather than the methods used in its enforcement. Find it on page 65. There, I believe he's saying this, that we're so busy making up this system and sending out the truant officers and putting parents in jail and putting children in detention centers, trying to make them learn according to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, that we are so focused on the enforcement of the rules that we made up that we haven't taken a step back to see if maybe the whole system is at fault, and that maybe there is a new way and a revolutionized way of learning. And it's not crazy and it's not foolish if you think about it. Most learning that we acquire, according to this author, and I believe it's true as well, most of our learning comes outside of the classroom. Most people learn how to read outside. I learned how to read outside of school. I know how to read my address, my phone number, colors, shapes, so forth, before I even stepped into a classroom. Most of my learning took place outside of school. Our next quote: in school, registered students submit to certified teachers in order to obtain certificates of their own. Both are frustrated and both blame insufficient resources, money, time, or buildings, or their mutual frustration. The alternative to dependence on schools is not the use of public resources for some new device which makes people learn. Rather, it is the creation of a new style of educational relationship between man and his environment, page 72. Here, he's saying this, and I also believe this is true, that the educational system is defeating itself. We're butting heads with each other. I have my degree, and I try to help you get your degree, but I'm trying to make you learn the way I learn best. You have your own way of learning, and there's such a conflict, and instead of us reevaluating the relationship between teacher and pupil, between school system and the pupils, between the public school system and the citizenry, instead of reevaluating that entire relationship, we'll blame the lack of resources. We want more money. We want more opportunities. But we spend more on education than any time ever in this nation, but there's so many dropping out. So there's a problem somewhere. Our last quote: contemporary man goes further. He attempts to create the world in his image, to build a totally man-made environment, and then discovers that he can do so only on the condition of consistently remaking himself to fit it. We now must face the fact that man himself is at stake, page 107. I believe that quote is very prophetic and telling of our world today. We want to make the world the way we want it, which is okay to a point. But we're doing so to such a severe extreme that we have to reinvent ourselves to fit the world that we created. We have to make ourselves fit into the advertisement that we created. We have to make ourselves fit into the categories that we created. We got to be careful of that. The school and society starts with us understanding that the terms education and schooling are totally different concepts. As I read through the other books, I'm going to continue to speak on this subject and other videos as well in between the book reviews about this important subject. It's important that we become self-made scholars, that we learn on our own, in addition to whatever degree or certification we may receive. I'm not speaking against education. I believe everyone should get educated. I don't want to go all the way to the doctorate level, but it still should be undergirded by personal achievement and personal understanding. May God bless you, is my prayer.